we'll get going on this. So, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, very first thing, you're gonna try and kill yourself. You've got 4 HP to start. Oh, we got Franker doing his work again. We've got 4 HP to start. We need to bring that down to 1 before the next scene. There we go. Man, he is upset. Somebody must be in the driveway. And just when you get to this cutscene, you immediately take damage. If you had any more health, you'd have to wait for you to get killed off along the way. And we get to my favorite character, Old Man. Old Man is the best. He just yells at you for most of the time and occasionally gives you some extra HP. Yada yada yada, such a whelp. You're nothing like your ancestors. I can kick your ass with this cane, something something. View my power. So right now we have a pretty basic moveset. We can jump, we can climb walls, which is kind of one of the interesting points about this game as a whole. And I've got this crescent attack. So not really much I can do in terms of trying to go fast, but that'll all change very, very soon. First up though, very dull stage. They have some neat effects with the trees. It's just short. There's not a whole lot to say here. And there's really not much I can do to speed it up. Kind of a funny thing is that there are some very minor optimizations I can do that save on the order of 1 or 2 frames. But they also happen to be frame perfect, so a lot of effort for something that's so minor overall. But this is Temple and Furnace, where we start to see our first really major tricks as we set this up. The first is just getting all the right damage boosts, and the second, you'll see in just a moment. One of the best things about this game for speedrunnings is that you got zips. Zips for days. Alright. First boss. There we go. It's actually kind of a tricky timing and placement to get that just right so you can keep him juggled with the crescents. Because as soon as he lands, the crescent still needs to be overlapping with him. But you can't fire another crescent until the first one disappears. So you have to have a good position relative to the wall so that they're disappearing so you can keep up a reasonable rhythm. My sound is desynced. Sound is definitely desynced. Well, this is an auto-scroller, so I can try to set that up. I don't think there's anything I can do on my end as far as audio desync goes. Is it a bad desync? Are we talking on the order of like half a second or more? Or just a mild desync? Yep. Okay, they're working on it. It's all good. This auto-scroller, I've toyed with a lot just to find something interesting to do with it. Like all manner of, hey, I'm going to go through without killing any enemies, I'm going to not pick up any drops, I'm going to try to kill enemies as fast as possible, but alas, the frames always win out in the end. I do have to end up killing the enemies as fast as possible, which kind of limits a lot more of the fun that I can have in the auto-scroller, just because there is some lag introduced as a result. But now we have the Comet, and the Comet is extremely useful for a variety of reasons. The main one is just it moves you faster at the cost of 2 magic. Oh dear. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Didn't jump soon enough. I'll reset it though. You enter the door there just to reset this blue guy. Okay, and now we have the climb. This is probably the biggest instance of there we go, of zips and necessary timing in the game. Each of those zips is frame perfect. So to go up like that, I need to hit jump and then attack right 2 frames after I hit jump. So it's definitely something you build up a rhythm for over time. I've been doing this game for going on 5 years now, so I've got it pretty well ingrained. But yeah, it's a proper timing to all of it. Getting yourself stuck in the wall is the first step, though, and I can do it in this room, but I'm not going to, because if I accidentally zip to the ceiling, then it's a soft lock. Yep. And now Mr. Mode 7 is of no threat to me. Oops. Okay, last hit. We're good. 2, 3. Something I didn't mention before. Whenever I beat bosses, it is really important that I try to finish my sprite being in as close to the center of the screen as possible. And that's actually something new that we discovered in just the last couple years, because the game takes time to move your character to the center of the screen, 1 pixel at a time. So we can save a fair bit of time by just making sure we get there earlier, and we can move faster, especially when it doesn't really cost anything to try and finish it. There's some screens, though, where that's not as apparent, because a screen, at least as far as the game interprets it, is not like the entire room that you're in. It's just an area of 256 by 256 pixels. So finding the center is really important there. Also, this minigame is incredibly hard to control. Like, me doing this back and forth stuff, that is actually necessary to stay on target. Okay, and the point is I get right here, so that this mine will take me out and I can roll off the bottom of the screen as soon as possible. And now we get our 6th HP, but we really get to do some of the creative things with Comet as we go through the next. Most of the other powers have some use, some mild use, but not nearly as much as the Comet. And you also get to start seeing instances of RNG manipulation, or just drop manipulation is the main thing, where I can control what drops enemies will give me based on what I do after entering a screen, because the RNG resets every time you enter a new room. Right there I just manipulated 2 full magic drops, which gives me 4 extra magic, just based on the actions I took right at the beginning. And that will be the same every time, so long as I do the same thing every time. It gets a little trickier in some of the other places. For example, I can't just do it in every screen, but we've developed a number of setups that allow us to do it pretty consistently on most. Ice Crusher is a little bit of a problem. There we go, we made it barely. In terms of improvements, like, this Ice Crusher is probably the one place where there's like a significant time gain from just finding a different way to do it. Right now, like, the number of cycles that I just made it through is optimal, but the task gets through 1 cycle sooner, and there's all sorts of tricks with the crushers themselves, where, for example, I can go through and just one moment. Get out of here, Wallface. Yeah, so there's all sorts of tricks, like where I can climb up into the ceiling of the crusher while it's coming down. It's really risky, because at some point it's going to kill me, but there's all sorts of strange things you can do while in there, and it's just that we haven't found any way to actually make that useful yet. Alas. Okay. Falls of Torment. This might look like a pretty trivial stage, but getting through is actually very difficult, even for the speedrun. I have to set things up very particularly, because these slimes... Oh gosh, these slimes. That little projectile that they throw up, that will actually knock me out of combat, and it's one of very few attacks in the game that'll do that. So I have to take a low route to actually make it effective. But yeah, there we go. It's easy peasy. And everybody's favorite, a water stage. This is a double whammy. It's both a water stage and the maze stage. So this is probably the bane of many early players' existence with this game. The main thing also is that the boss is incredibly difficult without the right strategies. But since I know all the way through, it's going to be pretty quick. One of the main things to realize as you're going through is just that every one of these switches doesn't control a specific gate, it controls all of the gates. So, managing your way through... Oh. Now I'm all set up for boss. 1,000, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. There we go. Clam boss. Not so bad if you have the strats. If you don't have the strats, you are getting chased endlessly by enormous piranhas that do a ton of damage and take a ton of hits. Luckily, that makes them pretty good, so long as you can set up the right timing and position. Moving on. Sand rivers. Not a whole lot to say here. I have a kind of a blind jump at a part. Normally do not mess it up, but no, there's chances for everything. There we go. And just because we haven't done it in a while, let's get another zip. Get off there. There we go. So getting stuck in the wall is another frame perfect thing. It's just you have to crouch, punch, and then jump while you're in the punching animation. We take a small detour here. You gotta pick up some magic in Caverns of Shirel. Or at least that's the hope. This is another auto-scroller, but we come here early with the intention of hopefully getting a large magic drop, which would give us a full magic, and we can take a minor time saver in the next stage. However, it's pretty rare. There's only 13 enemies in this stage, and since the RNG is based on time, like, you have to kill them on the correct frames in order to get magic. And so it's really unusual to actually get through here. I would say it's on the order of like 10% for getting that drop, but it doesn't cost much extra to just go over this way, so it's worth giving a try to potentially save that second and a half. Yeah, but we didn't get it. We just got one small magic, so we're gonna take the slightly different route in the Gateway of Eternal Storms. So, one of the things with this game is that for a long, long time, one of the most shared ROMs for this game online was actually a beta. And in the beta version, this stage, the next stage, and one of the stages following it are just completely different. Like, the layout is nothing like what you're seeing here. And that's one of the main tip-offs, but yeah, this is obviously original cart, so what you're looking at is the real deal. In fact, the very first task of this game to get submitted to task videos used the beta unknowingly. Just it wasn't well marked, and a lot of other people have experienced the same thing. But this is a neat little stage just because of the way that they try and use the wind itself as platforms. I'm messing that up lately. It's okay, it's okay. It's not okay. Okay, well, we're fine. Just start back here. We've got lives for days. There we go. And on this boss, there's a really sweet quick kill that I'm hoping to get. There we go. I got it. That's basically perfect. There's this boss has a really short invulnerability time, and it's so short to the point that that starburst attack that I used actually has 2 phases of damage, and both phases will hit him. Not only that, since there's multiple projectiles, if I set it up just right, I can make sure that one of them bursts on his clone, which will do even more damage. So we basically obliterate him by some proper positioning and a little bit of RNG manipulation, just making sure you do the same actions at the start. Oops. This, please. This stage is one of the worst ones. Worst just being it is by far the most technical, and there's a lot of really subtle things that happen and need to go right. First of which is this room, and hopefully... Nope. Okay, I'm gonna kill myself real quick. I have to get this. There's an alternative way to do this room, the old way that manipulates some... Dang it, come on now. Yeah. I basically need to set up a blind zip. Normally this is something that I need to get first try. Wow, come on now. The lava zip is super important. I'm not leaving this room until I get it. It is pretty tricky though, because like I said, it is... Frame perfect. Why? Why? There we go. There you go, lava zip. Need to get it. Just because it's so slick. And now we get... This is a setup to make sure this guy drops magic. There we go. And we're good for the boss. Everybody's favorite, the Dragafant. You know, from all those other games and stuff. That has a Dragafant that shoots apples. Apples with evil little smiles. Oh no! No, no, I let him out. Normally he's supposed to stay back there, but now we're improvising. There we go. Okay, we are almost loaded up on powers. If I stop at this shrine, I can get an extra HP, but we don't need that. That takes up some time. Instead, we've got this stage to work through. Which normally is a maze stage, so like there's a certain exit that you're supposed to go for here. We don't care about that exit, though. We've got the secret exit on our side. And now, the Great Tower. One of the most diverse stages. This is meant to be kind of like a test of all of the other skills that you've acquired. But for me, it's just a test of zips. And some new stuff, like climbing into the ceiling. Ta-da! What a magic trick. There we go. So far so good on this cycle. Ooh, Andy gave me the big magic. That's a rare occurrence, and it lets me do some fun things over here. Like, kill myself into the void! Alright, I misplaced that just a little bit. It's really uncommon that I get magic there, so I haven't practiced those strats in quite some time. But basically you get to skip these bowling balls, which cause a lot of lag. Oh well, we're good though. 1, 2. Set up another magic manipulation. Right. This whole water section is just filled with lag. But you can still work on getting it through it pretty efficiently. Here we go. And now we're into the final boss of this stage. Sorry, not final boss, total. Please get in there. Thank you. Mr. Dragon is unfortunately the easiest boss in the game. 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9 cycles is the soonest you can take him out. Warrior Force, which is that star power, is really interesting. I only get it from Dragafin, so I haven't had it for very long, but it makes me invulnerable for as long as it's active, and doubles my damage output. So I set it up right there to actually cut off a lot of cycles on the dragon, and make sure that we can do pretty well there. We've got one more auto-scroller. Well, maybe 2. But, yeah. Need a little bit of a breather, because like I said earlier, this is a SNES game. You can't have a SNES game without a boss rush. So that's what we've got in store for us coming up. First, though, we have the most significant and important boss. We've got Old Man Boss. And most of the sequences where you're talking to the old man, he has like a fair number of things that he'll say, and like talk about the story, you're such an idiot, yada yada yada. But in this case, he has a single line, and if you are expecting him to say more and mash right on through it, oh, then he has a lot to say. So you got to make sure you clear the Old Man Boss by not mashing through this section. There we go. Old Man Boss completed. Okay. Now we're on to Raglan Citadel, the final stage, and the next 5 minutes of this run, thereabouts. Nothing too special to start off with, just another auto-scroller with an interesting take on it just because it's a vertically scrolling. So all of these falling platforms and stuff can be fairly dangerous if you are not prepared for them. I have actually lost runs to this stage because of getting a little nervous from having a good time. Just to talk for a moment about time, I currently have the world record for this. It's sitting at 25:48, I want to say. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh right, it's a boss rush, but this time you get Phoenix, so you get to decimate all of them. Yeah, so I have a 25:48. The Hulk has done the runs of this on the Japanese version, which just from text differences is about 20 seconds faster. And he has a 25:39, I believe, which on the US version would be 25:59. So, accounting for those differences, I am sitting at the top. It's a really fun game, though. Everybody should... I encourage you to give it a try for casual play, especially. Like, there's a lot to explore from this game that I don't end up showing you. And it's just got a good feel to it. Like, there's a lot of areas, and just progression is easy since it gives you an abundance of lives. And really, game overs aren't that bad either, because it just starts you off at the last old man hut that you visited. So it's plenty to get into and easily worked on. Refight with Wallface. You don't want to use Phoenix on him, because unfortunately it does only 4 damage. Normally it does 8 on most things. But Wallface is specially programmed that certain attacks just do less damage, including Phoenix. So it's still the fastest to take him out with Comet. Or if I wanted to be really flashy about it, I could use Starburst. But after this, we get to use lots more Phoenix. Hit everything in the eyeball. Always hit everything in the eyeball. It's the weak spot. If it could be flashing, I'm sure it would be. Our rematch with Clams. It's actually fairly precise, and I messed up getting the super quick kill, but we still got a quick kill. There it is. And once more, our last boss up today is Dragafant, our favorite. He's entirely manipulated by your position relative to him, so... There we go. That was not ideal. He was not supposed to jump, but it worked out in the end. I still had enough Phoenix to take him out. I'm supposed to try and stay really close to his head, which will cause him to shoot out the apples. But, regardless, it all worked out. This guy, remember him? He kicked my ass at the very beginning of the game. We've got our revenge. He's got a stupid shield, though, that he thinks is going to save him. Boy, is he in for something. There it is. Hooray! Hooray! We beat Ashura. Easy peasy, right? But wait, there's more. Ashura's entire purpose here is to try and resurrect Raglan, the Lord of all evil or something. So of course now I've got to actually fight Raglan, and he is no joke. He doesn't do a whole lot, but what he does do is pretty darn effective. So instead we have a special strategy to try and take him out, where we essentially need to trade hits every time, and I have just enough HP to outlast him. So we'll make sure that we get this going good. That counterattack is the laser with the trailing fireball. That does 2 damage. So we want to not ever get hit by that, if we can help it, and instead keep him as close to the ground as possible by just making sure all of these hits connect. There it is, and time looks like 27:50. Time didn't stop. There it is. Yeah, about 27:52. So not terrible. All those deaths cost it, but like, to do really well in this game, you need to go through a lot. There's a couple tricks that I did not show off, which are incredibly difficult. Particularly, you can do what are called ground zips, where you get your foot stuck in the floor of any surface, and then perform a zip, which requires doing 2 consecutive frame-perfect inputs, and it's no joke. There's 2 of those that are used in the real-time run. In my record run, I get both of them, which is fantastic. And then all the rest just needs to be pretty clean. There's not a whole lot of time more that can come off from that run, so pretty happy with it. But yeah, there we go. That is Skyblazer. Once again, I encourage everybody to try and give it a play sometime, however you can. A lot of fun to play casually, really fun to speedrun as well, just because you get to fool around with zips in a situation that for the most part is not particularly dangerous. If you mess up doing a zip, usually you just do it again until you get it right. A couple exceptions to that, of course, but it's a really fun game to explore, and there's a lot that's going on with it, so yeah, give it a try that way. We'll wait on the OK and see who's coming up next. It sounds like Operation Logic Bomb coming right up. A fun, quirky little top-down shooter. Pretty interesting as far as that goes, because there's a lot of exploration mechanics to it. But yeah, they'll put on a good show for you, I'm sure. make sure you watch through here and get some Olaf Olafsson, who's, aside from having an amazing name, has done pretty... His name is attached to a lot of really good games, and particularly some of the development behind pushing for the original PlayStation. So, yeah, he worked on producing this game, so on this one. But, yep, so I think I am going to head off. Thanks you guys for watching. Right now I am not streaming too actively, but I encourage you to follow my channel. I'm working on writing a speedrunning book. That just happens to take up a lot of my evenings, so I can't stream as often as I'd like to. But that's coming next year. In the meantime, though, later this year I'll definitely be back at it, doing runs of various Super Nintendo games and Suikoden 2 and stuff like that. So, yeah, hope to see you there. And, yeah, enjoy some Operation Logic Bomb.